everyone, I'm Rhonda, and today I have a special little project I want to show you. While I was taking care of my mom, I was able to work just little by little until I ended up with a big pile of these, and I'm just now getting around to making the video. But what I did is I made these little notepads just using old book covers, and I just wanted to repurpose them and give them a new life, and I think they turned out really cute. And so I'm just going to show you the steps in making these, and then I'll come back and show you all the looks you can get. So all you really need is a book cover and whatever pages you want for your notepad, and whatever you want for the top of your notepad, and some ribbons, laces. You'll need a clip to hold your pages together while you work on it. You'll also need some glue, and you can use eyelets and brads to bind it together, but if you don't have that, you could always use some kind of ribbon or string. And distress ink is just optional, so I try to make sure that all of my pages are just in an order that I like, and also even around all sides. So then I clamp those pages together, and now I'm ready to punch holes in the book base. And then I've got these larger eyelets, and so these I have just put a wax coat on to change the color of them to a silver color. So I take my crocodile, and I'm going to use that bigger hole that you can punch with to punch the book cover, and then I'll go ahead and add my eyelets, and I'm just setting those into the book cover. You can cover the inside cover if you want, but on this one I'm going to leave it as is. And if I'm going to cover the inside of that book cover, then I usually print on copy paper or coffee dyed paper. So now I just want to get my pages lined up and marked so that I can punch the holes in those too. So you just lay it on your book cover, but you just want to get those pages even, and then clamp them however is easiest for you to where they won't move, and then mark those pages. And then I'm just going to take my crocodile and use the smaller hole to punch through the pages of the notepad so they don't tear as easy. And then I'll attach the brads and fasten those pages in. So now I want to make sure that I have my top cover the size that it needs to be. If your page isn't quite long enough, that's okay, because you can always extend it either with lace or ribbons or more cardstock and make it the right size. It actually just adds more of a decorative element when you do. And I just added some more silver wax to those brads just to make them match the eyelets. Now I'm just going to glue my ribbon to the top of the back of the book, and then it will fold over and attach to the front piece. So I just like to cover the top of the book with the ribbon or lace. And then I'm just going to glue that ribbon to the top piece. And that just kind of gives it a finished look when you wrap that piece around from the back to the front. And it also helps to stabilize it too, and just make it more of a flip-up notepad to where you can access the pages better. You just want to make sure that your glue doesn't go through onto your pages. Now the next step I do is, if you want to make a hanger for it to hang from, then I just go ahead and add glue to the top of the edge of the book, and I'm using jute on a lot of them, but you can use ribbon, You can use lace, whatever you choose. And I just glue that to the top, making sure not to get glue on the actual notepad pages. Once I get that glued, then I put glue on the top of the jute and then fold that top piece of ribbon or lace over. Then I can take and pull those strings together and just make a little loop knot. You just want to make sure that you don't pull too hard on the string or it will pull your ribbon loose if it's not quite dry. And then I just tie a little simple bow if you want a bow. So I found this lace and I thought it would be perfect, and so I'm just going to add that over the top of that ribbon. And I found that when you do layer, it actually sturdies it up and also weights it a little bit so that your ribbon or your lace doesn't try to just buckle on you. It actually lays flat. So I think that looks cute. And then I'm just going to go back and just secure the other edges that still need glue. And this one's going to be very simple. You can be as elaborate or as simple as you want. I found this pretty lace that also has a little pink in it, and so I'm just going to add that to the bottom. You can add it under or you can add it over. It's all up to you and what look you're going for. I'm going to add this one to the top. And these are super quick and easy depending on how much you add to them. And they make just great little gifts. And it's something that you don't really have to think about a lot. You can just create and have fun. That's what creating is all about. So on this one, I've already got the holes punched in the base and in the top. These digitals are from the paper Cameo. And so I added a pretty little pocket to the front that came from her kit, and also those beautiful tags. And I also added a little bit of brown paper ruffle on that edge of that pocket. And then the little envelope. So I'm just getting these pages lined up and clamped so that I can mark them and punch the holes in these. So now we'll just add the little brads again. And you'll see as I create more that some I add brads to, and some I just run either sari ribbon or seam binding ribbon through and let that tie on the front to hold them in. So you have lots of options. I'm going to use this sheer fabric as my first layer that attaches to the back of the book just to cover the top. And then I'll take and put the cream colored lace. And I'm going to use the seam on the back side so that it won't fray as easy. Plus I just like the little torn frayed edge for the front. Okay, so now we're ready to do our string again, or ribbon, or whatever you choose to use as your hanger. And that's if you want to do a hanger. You can omit this step if you don't want one. I really like how the jute string looks on this though. And folding it in half just kind of gives me a good idea of where the center is. So I'm just gluing that down and gluing over the top of the string and attaching that fabric. Now I'm going to put some more over the top to attach that piece of lace. And sometimes putting more than one layer just adds to the weight of it so that it will hang like it needs to over those pages. And you don't have to put a bow if you don't want one. You can even add some cute little beads or pearls if they would fit on your string, and just add a cute little element that way too. And if you don't want your pieces separate to where they flop, then I just kind of put just a real thin layer there to hold them together. That way you can determine exactly how they fall and what you see. So this envelope was in that kit too, and it's beautiful. I've lined with brown scrunched up paper. So I just took my little piece of seam binding ribbon and let that envelope kind of hook into that with the flap, and just tied it around. I found this stick pin that went perfectly with it, so I just added that to the lace, just for a little more detail. Now you could add something to the bottom of that. I didn't on this one, just to show you your options. And I wanted to add a little bit of something extra to the pink one, so I just added a little seam binding ribbon bow to that corner there. Here's another one, and there are some beautiful kits that are from Souvenir de la France. So I wanted to show you how I do my pages when I get them ready. The books that I used were perfect for just a regular 8.5 by 11 sheet. And so all I had to do was just tear those, cut those in half. Depending on the size of your book, you may have to cut them down even more. But for this one, it works perfect just to fold it in half. And then I just used my ruler edge to tear it. Since I was tearing them, I just stacked them to where one side was torn, and then the next sheet that went on top, I reversed it so that both sides will have lots of torn pages, and that way you have a uniform look. And then I just got all those even, clamped, and then on this one it was easier for me to turn it upside down and just hold it there that way. And I wanted to see exactly where the top was going to go so that I could kind of gauge where to put those holes in the back cover. And most of the time I just eyeball it, but I will take my ruler and at least get the other side even for the most part. Sometimes I do just eyeball it because it really doesn't matter. As long as you're happy with it. I don't really think about stuff when I do it. I just do it, and then, you know, sometimes it works well, sometimes it doesn't, and if I remember the next time, then I'll do it the better way. If not, then I just keep doing it my own way. And as you go, you learn. So I do things different in each one, but some of it is simply because it was just more convenient at the moment, and some of it I just learned that there was a better way. So I covered the back with that beautiful brown rose paper, and I'm just gonna go ahead and put my lace coffee dyed paper in. Gonna clamp it and mark it. So here we are using the smaller hole for the pages. So now that I've got those brads attached, now I'm gluing this little satin lace piece to the front cover to extend it. And I'm pretty sure that this lace came from Lavish Laces. It was a really wide piece that I could cut apart, and I liked the tulle edge on it, so that's going to extend my page for this one. And then I found this beautiful lace that I'm going to use to attach it to the book. And these really are easy to create. If they weren't easy, you can count on me not doing it. And that's not to sound lazy. I just like to relax and create stress-free whenever possible. And this project is perfect for that. So now, there we are again. We're going to go ahead and attach. I'm using ribbon this time. A really tiny cream-colored satin ribbon. And it fit perfectly on that book edge. And so now I'm going to go back over the top of that with some more glue and glue down that lace. And I just kind of pinch it as close to the center as I can, and then tie a knot, just a loop knot. And as you tighten the knot, you can kind of adjust it if it's not exactly in the middle. And then just a simple little bow, if you even want a bow. And I did add beads to the ends of that ribbon. I'll show you that in a minute. Now that little piece of satin lace will attach to the top piece of lace. And that just extends my page. But it also just adds a lot of beauty to the top. And then I had this piece of trim that I thought was really pretty. So I'm just doing a lot of layering on this one, just to add a lot of detail. One more piece I'm going to add that has some little pearls in it. And on pieces like this, you just want to make sure that those ends attach really good into the glue so that they don't pop up and fray. Then I had this beautiful dotted tulle fabric that I just cut a strip of, and I thought it would be so pretty to gather it and kind of make like a veil, kind of to mimic what you see in the picture. And so I just took a needle and thread and just did a straight stitch all the way through that fabric and tied it off at the ends. And I'm using a little bit thicker of a thread here just so that you can see better. And then I'll just make sure that I knot that off on both ends. And then I just take and dab a little bit of glue on there with my finger and attach it to the bottom. But I still want something to go on that edge under there, so I found this pretty little piece of lace that I'm going to attach to the edge of the front cover. And I just open the book up to make sure I don't get glue all over my pages. It's a little floppy down there, so I'm just going to put a little glue on my finger and go ahead and attach the lace to that top piece. And that'll just keep them from flopping, and it'll just sturdy it up a bit. Help them to keep their shape better. So on the back, I wanted to add this pretty heart trim, and it'll just add another little layer as you thumb through the pages. For the center of that gathered up tulle, I wanted to add something to that. So I found these little pearl beads that already had little jump rings on the ends. So I attached them with my pliers right to the fabric, and then I just secured them with glue. And they'll just hang there from that pretty little veil. It would also be pretty to take just a piece of that fabric and make a page, just to open up the book and have that beautiful fabric. Here are those beads I was telling you about. And on the back inside, I did add another piece of that satin and lace ribbon and filled it with a pretty tag. So on to the next one. This one is also by Souvenir de la France, and I wanted to show you this one because I used that little scallop edge and just cut out around the scallops, and I want to add lace to that and let that be my cover to where whatever is on the first page can kind of peep out from underneath. I just wanted to showcase that scalloped edge. And so I found this beautiful page that I'm going to use as my base, and so I just trace around it with the book cover, and then I cut around it, and then I just trim it if it's still too big for those edges. So I just take a little at a time to make sure I have it the right size. You could also use a ruler though and measure. And I inked those edges really quick, and then I'm just going to glue that to the base. And I also used a straight edge there to make sure it was glued really good. Now I'm going to attach the lace to that cover, just right around the scallop. I had this really pretty little white lace that was perfect for it. Kind of mimicked the design in that front cover. And I also printed on the back side of this one. Some I did, some I didn't, some I added something to later, so you can do whatever you want with that too. And I wanted a little bit more of the pages to show, so I just trimmed the top down a little bit more and re-inked it before I punched the holes in it. So now you can see where that corner will peep out. Here I'm fussy cutting another image that I want to use as a little tuck spot on the front to add some color. But before I glue that down, I'm going to go ahead and work on the top. Get those holes punched in it. And so here you can see I'm just kind of eyeballing. You just have to kind of think about the front cover and the lace and however you're putting the front together when you punch those holes. and then I just flip it over and mark that on that cover piece and punch it with a small hole punch. I like to punch the pages and the top. If you're going to use holes in the top, I like to use the small hole punch for that because it tends to not tear as easily since the hole is smaller. And then I'm going to add this beautiful trim to the bottom that will peek out from underneath that top cover. And on the side there was tape and it was kind of messed up on this one, so I wanted to cover that with a beautiful lace. I ended up getting a different lace pattern though, and you'll see it in a second. My camera cut off and I'm sorry about that, so I didn't get to show you the rest, but I did want to come back and show you the lace that I used to cover the top and how I had run the seam binding ribbon through those holes and through the lace and made a bow to hold those pages in. And there's the little corner tuck that's right inside, and there you can see that little corner tuck peeping through. And here I wanted to show you that you don't have to even use book covers. You could just glue some cardboard together, and I inked around the edges, but you could also paint the edges or use wax around them. And then I got that image from Graphics Fairy to go on the back. This front image is from Sam Poole, and all the ephemera is too. And that would just make a really pretty little notepad. So you don't have to have book covers if you don't have access to them. Now I'm just going to go through and show you the other ones that I've made. This whole stack is by Sam Poole. And so this one I tied with sari ribbon, and I just put a little cabinet card photo from her kit on a lace background with a little rose tuck, and then a rose receipt there that you can take out and journal on, and that beautiful image for the cover. And you'll never guess what that is. Well, you might can guess, but let me show you. It is actually a bath loofah, and I just pulled it apart because I loved the ruffles and the netting, and I've just got it put back together with a rubber band. But that made the cutest little ruffle at the bottom, and then I just added some little rhinestones. This one I didn't add brads either. I just used the sari ribbon through it and a piece of lace at the top. And I left that back cover just like it was because the green was perfect to match the cover. And I also added a rhinestone piece of jewelry to the top. And those just tuck back in that little tuck spot underneath the lace. This one I love. It is a beautiful image, and then I just stamped it with one of Sam's stamps, added the beautiful trim at the bottom, and then added some crochet trim at the top, a coffee filter ruffle that I sewed, and then I found that old rusty bottle cap and just cleaned it up and added a little photo in the center with some rhinestone trim. That one I used the brads on and just covered it with the lace. And I just love it. It's very rustic and very vintage. Here's the one that we made together, so I won't go into showing you all the things about it, but I did want to show you that I added a book page on the inside and just let it lay behind that lace at the bottom to kind of stiffen it up. This is another beautiful one. I love the quilt look on the front. This was a bigger book, a dictionary book, and then at the top I used some chenille along with some laces and tulle gathered, and a big huge button that I ran some sari ribbon through and tied a bow. And I just love how those look together with the quilted image and the lace at the bottom. And then I added a dictionary page on the inside back cover and some coffee filter ruffle. So pretty. I love this swan image, and I wanted to make sure I used it. What I did on this one is I used a piece of canvas and extended that page to where it would be long enough, and then I covered the canvas with just a piece of a sheet that I ruffled up at the top. And I went ahead and used the canvas to put the brads through, and I think it turned out nice. And I added the little pin to the corner there and the coffee filter ruffle at the bottom. I love this collage image with the bird. And I just took little scraps of fabric and I joined them together at the top and put a sari ribbon up there in a bow. But it is actually together with brads. And then I added the trim at the bottom. There's all those just plain coffee dyed pages. And then there's the inside book cover. And there you can see where I joined it to the back with the canvas. And neither one of these have hangers. I love the Paris Digital on this one. It's just a tag that I hung from a bulb pin with a little charm, and then I had some crochet trim there that actually had some holes at the top, so I just put a little piece of cardstock that was printed, and so you could see that design through there. Then I added some lace and a coffee filter ruffle to the bottom, and in the back I used that same striped design and a little label from one of her kids. And on the crocheted lace, I did add a piece of ribbon to the back just to secure it a little better and sturdy it up for that tag to hang from the front. But I think this one turned out really pretty. And I also added another label to the back. It does have a little spot on the corner, but to me that just adds more character. This one is a little bit smaller, but this image fit perfectly. And I added lace and seam binding to the bottom. And that was actually an earring with the little dangles and everything. I just added the middle piece to it and spread the little petals out. Added some more of that satin trim. And you can see there's the back cover. And then added some coffee filter ruffle to the bottom. And this one I just mixed a variety of pages in it. And then you can see the back there. Very cute. This one, I love this image too, and I just added some music pages that I ruffled up with some rhinestone trim on top of a piece of lace. I secured the brads with another piece of cardstock glued to the top. Then at the bottom I added this beautiful rose trim, some dotted sari, a little bit of crocheted lace. There's the inside of the back cover, and that edge was messed up a little bit, so I just took a piece of that dotted sari and glued it to the side, wrapping around it. So my next stack, I have several different digitals in here. This one is from the paper Cameo. I love the cameos in this. So I took the envelope that was in the kit and added an eyelet and some lace. And then there's little ephemera that can go inside. And then it just opens up. And you can see the inside there. I won't open it all the way. There's the inside print. And the front is beautiful too. But I just took and wrapped that with the lace. And here I have a beautiful fabric rose with a button and some more trim. And that just lifts up to show the brads there. I added a little tuck spot with some embossed paper and a tag that I attached on top of the beautiful cover. And I added some scrunched up sari there and a beautiful tag that you can journal on the back of. And then that envelope just slips underneath there and wraps around with that lace and ties. And I have a beautiful Cameo key that will just hang from that bow. And here's the book cover on the back. This is another one from the paper Cameo, like I showed you. And here's the inside that you can see better, where I lined it and inked it. And then I also added this beautiful prayer card. And so there's that pocket and that glittered tulle and the brown paper ruffle, along with those beautiful tags that you can journal on back of. And there is the cover. It's really pretty. This one is another one from Sam Pool that I missed putting in the other stack, but it has some beautiful trim at the top. I added some music ribbon and added a rhinestone bead too. And then I wrapped this little envelope, and I have a video on how I made these envelopes that I can link below. And I just thought that would be really cute with the music tucked into that ribbon, and that is another one of her images there that I stitched around. And so the cover is just gorgeous with all of the religious images and the music, and it goes perfect with the hymnal. There's the trim at the bottom. This just has plain pages and a plain back. I left the book cover back because it was beautiful to write on. And so that tucks back in there. And there you go. This is another one from Paper Cameo, a beautiful angel image, and I added the rhinestone trim. Then the top just has this beautiful trim. There is a sari bow, and I added these charms that go perfectly. And the rhinestones just make it even more elegant. And there's coffee filter ruffle at the bottom and a doily page, along with just plain pages. This image is from Ruby and Pearl, and I added some lace and a little label, and then also some coffee filter ruffle. And this one I just used the sari to join it I just ran the sari through the holes of the book and the pages and tied a bow. And I just love this image as well. I love the teal color too. And the old book cover is just beautiful. But if you didn't like that look, you could always cover it or paint it. So I copied a page from one of my old catalogs onto some onion skin paper, and then I just added coffee dyed paper, and I kept the original back cover because it had beautiful writing in it. This one is also from Ruby and Pearl, and I love the collaged envelopes, and I also printed one of her envelopes that folds up, and then I just used the sari ribbon to hold that on. And so when you undo it, the envelope's folded up, you're able to tuck a little tag or photo in there. And then just piece together some more scraps for the top, and I glued this down onto a dictionary page, and it fit perfectly, and the edges of the dictionary page were already crinkled up, so it just looked perfect wrapped around this envelope collage. And then I added coffee filter ruffle to the bottom and coffee dyed pages, and then also kept the back cover on that one too. I just think all of these turned out so beautiful. Creating these just brought me so much joy. I really enjoyed making them, and I hope you enjoyed watching the process. Y'all have a beautiful day. Feel my hugs, and I'll see you next time. God bless.